Hey guys, this is Warwolf howling out at you. I don't like the fact that I have to make this video, but I have to make this video. In the last couple of days, two major developments happened that have had very different reactions. On the one hand, you have Daniel Penny being acquitted of all charges regarding the unfortunate death of Jordan Neely. Let me go on record right now in saying I agree with this decision. Because by all accounts, Jordan Neely had a history of violence. He had kidnapped a little girl at one point. He had committed several instances of what I believe would be considered battery, which is the physical action of harming somebody, at least according to the laws, as far as I understand it. Assault, which I guess in this case is threatening to do violence, which he was in fact doing the day that he was unfortunately killed. And he had multiple convictions. This was a man with a history of violence and was terrorizing people on the subway that day. Daniel Penny attempted to subdue him with non-lethal force, and unfortunately, he ended up passing. We have no proof that what Daniel Penny did caused him to pass, as apparently several witnesses claimed that Mr. Neely was still breathing when the police arrived, so he was still alive at that point. Regardless, Daniel Penny was acquitted. And he even says that he was not out to hurt anybody. He was trying to perform a non-lethal takedown. This was not an individual who sought fame or glory. This was somebody who was being a good Samaritan, literally trying to help people who were feeling terrorized by an individual with a history of violence, even if he hadn't known that at the time. And as far as I know, he didn't. And people on the left, and particularly black people, such as those who purport to represent the group who call themselves Black Lives Matter, or BLM, are screaming for vigilante justice, as if what happened here was done because Jordan Neely was black. No, this was not done because Jordan Neely was black. This was done because Jordan Neely, a man with a history of violence and multiple convictions, was terrorizing people on a subway. His death was an accident, and it was an absolute tragedy. I wish it hadn't happened, but Daniel Penny did not set out to murder the man. He was being a good Samaritan, and unfortunately, Jordan Neely ended up dead, whether because he had a bad reaction to the drugs he had or what have you. Some people say it was the sleeper hold. Some people say it was the sleeper hold having a bad reaction with his current situation where he was apparently high on drugs at the time. Some people say it was just the drugs. Whatever the case, apparently witnesses did say he was still alive when the police showed up. So I personally don't believe that Penny killed him. He certainly didn't set out to commit any form of crime. He was simply trying to take down an individual who was presenting himself as a clear and present threat in a non-lethal fashion. And yet people are trying to condemn it and trying to claim it's racially motivated. Bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. That is my take on that. On the other hand, you have complete psychopaths on social media and just about everywhere else trying to lionize, and I might be butchering this name, and I personally do not care if I am, Luigi Mangione, the man who, in cold blood, committed premeditated murder, at least allegedly. He appears to have written a manifesto which might, in fact, be an admission of guilt to the murder of one Brian Thompson. And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, it's okay. He was a CEO of a health insurance company. He deserved to die. No, that's disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. What I find more disgusting is individuals like Taylor Lorenz and Brianna Gray Joy, both of whom have shown up on Piers Morgan and ran their mouths, proving themselves to be absolutely disgusting people. Literally saying, in the case of Taylor Lorenz, that she felt joy, this was her words, that she felt joy at Brian Thompson's death. And Brianna Gray Joy, when she was asked directly the exact question, do you feel any empathy or any sympathy or whatever how it was, I forget the exact wording, I have to go back and rewatch it, but Piers Morgan put the question to her, do you feel any empathy, I believe was the wording, for Brian Thompson, who was just executed in cold blood? And her response is, I personally do not. So she then tried to justify it by going, oh, but healthcare is so bad in the United States. Yeah, the United States healthcare system is kind of a mess. I won't deny that. I am not rich. I'm not even middle class. I'm on SSD. I was originally on SSI. The only reason I'm on SSD now is that my father died literally a year ago today. December the 11th, 2023. My father died during Hanukkah, for fuck's sake. All right? I've been on SSI most of my life, if not all of it. The only reason I'm on SSD now is because I'm on my father's survivor's benefits. That's it. And I am not wealthy. I'm not middle class. I'm certainly not upper middle class. I consider myself fortunate to have a roof over my head. Given my personal handicaps, I am completely blind in one eye. I have a hearing loss in both ears from birth and a heart condition, specifically a heart murmur, all from birth. I'm type 2 diabetic, although supposedly I'm below diabetes numbers now, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. In any case, for anybody to say that they have no empathy for a man who was just shot in cold blood from behind, or to say that they feel joy about it, or to go online and celebrate it, that makes you a bad person. That makes you a horrible person. If you have a problem with the way healthcare works in this country, you're perfectly entitled to that sense of, outrage. You are not entitled to go out and murder somebody for it. You are never entitled to go out and murder somebody because of politics or policies or business practices you don't like. And I've heard people try to justify it by going, but United Healthcare only, they don't they don't approve certain coverage. Now, from what I've been told, and I've heard two different numbers. I've heard that they deny around 34% of all claims, or that they deny 32% of all claims. That means that over half of the claims that are made to United Healthcare, or whatever the hell the name of the company is, get approved. We're talking around 66 to 68% get approved. Is it perfect? Obviously not. Now, I know that a lot of people say, well, why don't we have nationalized healthcare like they do in Canada or the United Kingdom? Here's the problem. That's not like it's not going to cost money. That's going to cost money in the form of taxes. It's not like this money is free. There's no free anything in any society. There's always a cost somewhere. Now, does that mean that United Healthcare could stand to approve more cases? Absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. But I will disagree with anybody, be they on social media or web shows like Piers Morgan Uncensored, were absolutely disgusting excuses for human beings like Taylor Lorenz, Brianna Greyjoy, or the other, I forget who the other guy was, and I can't even pronounce his name, who went out there and said, it was okay because he was a CEO and our healthcare is messed up, so it's okay because people feel outraged about it. People feel outraged about a lot of things. Doesn't justify murder. Will never justify murder. And if you think it should justify murder, that's disgusting, and so are you. And if you think that that kind of thing is acceptable, but will then condemn somebody for trying to perform a non-lethal takedown of an individual and try to frame it as a racially motivated behavior, I'm sorry, you're disgusting. Because we literally have both of these instances happening. Both deaths are tragedies. There's no question about that. The difference is one was an accidental death, was not intended, and may not have even been the result of the actions of one Daniel Penny, who was simply trying to subdue in a non-lethal fashion an individual who was threatening others on a subway car and who was, in fact, somebody who had a history of violence. Even if he didn't know that, which, as far as I know, he did not. Daniel Penny acted as a good Samaritan. He was trying to basically prevent somebody from getting hurt. Meanwhile, Luigi Mangione, again, allegedly, we don't know if this was him, but at this point, he seems to have admitted his guilt in a manifesto he apparently wrote, and then tried to claim that his arrest was somehow unjust, which is disgusting. Again, I'm sorry, there's no other word for this. Deliberately went out to murder somebody in cold blood. This individual had a family. Namely, I'm talking about Brian Thompson here. This individual had a family, a wife, children, obviously parents, possibly siblings. And they are without a member of their family now because this disgusting piece of garbage decided that his problems with health insurance justified going out and murdering somebody. Let me be absolutely clear here. I have never approved of the death penalty. I never will. I would be very, very hard pressed to believe there's ever going to be a time when I would justifiably be willing to say, yes, somebody should get the death penalty. I think the one exception to that probably would have been if we could have gotten the bastard Adolf Hitler. I think he did himself in, by all accounts. So, I mean, there's that. I mean, to be fair, I'm Jewish. Technically, I'm mixed religion in terms of heritage, but I am Jewish on my father's side due to the fact that, again, the entire family on his side of the family is Jewish by ethnicity, as far as I'm aware. So, do I believe that Luigi Mangione should be put to death for this? Because I know that if you're in a state that not only has the death penalty, but is largely supported by some members of the state population, I know you're probably in disagreement with me on this. I do not believe that Luigi Mangione should be put to death. We do not right one death by the execution of other death. And before anybody says anything, no, that does not mean that I believe that what Israel has done in terms of their attacks in defense of Israel are somehow unjustified. I don't agree with any death. I never will. Does that mean that Israel has no right to defend itself? No. But in any case, because the reason I bring that up because the minute I pointed out that, again, I'm Jewish and I do not believe in a life for a life, I knew some people were going to probably bring this up in the comments, so I'm just heading you off there. I do believe, however, that Luigi Mangione, or whoever actually was the killer, if it was not him, At this point, though, again, he seems to have effectively admitted to it in his very deranged manifesto, where he seems to equate himself as some kind of do-gooder. I'm sorry, you're not Batman, you're not Spider-Man. You're probably more akin to the Punisher, and let me remind you, the Punisher is treated by the entirety of most comic book characters writ large as a deranged psychotic killer for a reason. Now, we as the reader are supposed to, of course, sympathize with some of the things that Castle does, at least in terms of what motivated him. But I'm sorry, the Punisher is not a hero. He's just not. He may have been once, as he was a Vietnam veteran, and he tried to help the people in Vietnam, but everything he did after the death of his family, he's a multiple murderer. He's a serial murderer, let's be honest here. I would not support this guy being on the streets any more than I would support Luigi Mangione or whoever the actual killer of Brian Thompson was. Whether it be fiction or real life, murder is never acceptable. This is also, by the way, why I do not support abortion. Murder is never acceptable. The circumstances regarding somebody's death could determine guilt or innocence in a court of law. This is why I believe that Daniel Penny was justifiably acquitted. Because again, he did not set out to murder anybody. He did not set out to even kill anybody in terms of a justification for the death. This is not a case of, justifiable homicide kind of situation, which, while tragic, yes, I've seen instances where this has apparently been used as a defense and might logically have some evidentiary basis to back it up. Jordan Penny was presenting himself as a clear and present danger to individuals. Daniel Penny attempted to subdue him in a non-lethal fashion, and unfortunately, he died. That death is a tragedy. Daniel Penny, however, was acting in good faith and was doing something that in any other time period prior to the 2000s would have had him lauded as a good Samaritan whose good intentions simply went awry, which is exactly what the situation is with Daniel Penny. With, again, allegedly, Luigi Mangione, what he did is not the act of a good Samaritan. This was not an individual who was presenting himself as a threat. This is not an individual who had a criminal record. This was not an individual who had ever, even as far as I know, even been arrested. Brian Thompson, his only crime was existing and being the head of a company. And just because people don't like that company does not justify the behavior, again, allegedly, of Luigi Mangione, or again, whoever actually was on that camera, shooting Brian Thompson from behind as if this was some kind of professional assassination. Was he a professional assassin? I doubt it. Was his behavior reprehensible? Absolutely. Are the people who are celebrating this assassination absolutely disgusting people? Yes. Taylor Lorenz, Brianna Greyjoy, you are right at the top of that list. One literally said that they had no empathy for a man who had just been killed in cold blood. The other outright said that she felt joy. And then tried to justify it by, healthcare bad. Yeah, we know healthcare could certainly use a lot of work, a lot of reform. Does not justify this. And your reactions mark you as horrible people. There's a reason Vox parted ways with Taylor Lorenz, despite what she wants to claim otherwise. I don't believe a word that comes out of her mouth, because the minute she realized what she said, she tried to justify it. She tried to change her wording, but it still came down to the same thing. Brianna Greyjoy literally tried to say, I didn't say I don't feel empathy over Brian Thompson's murder. She's blatantly lying, because anybody who has seen her appearance on Piers Morgan Uncensored knows that the question was put to her directly. And her answer was, I personally do not, when asked if she felt any empathy at all for Brian Thompson, who had just been executed in cold blood. And then tried to say that she did not say that. Not even 10 minutes later. She is a blatant liar. But then again, we also know that her behavior is generally the kind of thing that, ironically enough, more or less resulted in the election of Donald Trump. When you try to claim things like this are justifiable because of outrage over what a company has done, or you try to blame you try to blame a country fighting back against a terrorist organization, several, in fact, and you blame the actual victim of the terrorist attack for fighting back. I'm sorry, that's a horrible person. It's horrible when you do it when a state is attacked by literally the leadership of another part of the world, or a terrorist organization, or two or three, as has been the case, and you try to justify the attacker's behavior. I'm sorry, you're a piece of garbage. It's also true when you have an individual who decides, I don't like this healthcare company, I'm going to go out and murder the CEO who's never done anybody any actual harm because I feel like I'm justified in doing it. And she says, I have no sympathy for the fact that this man was just murdered in cold blood, and then tries to lie about it. I'm sorry. She's a horrible person. She's utter scum. And she's part of the reason why people took one look at the left wing, more specifically the progressives, because remember, she identifies as a progressive, and said, no, we don't want you. We want the conservatives. Now, to be fair, there are people on the conservative side who are also celebrating this. And I'm sorry, that doesn't, just because they're on the right, does not absolve them of this. They are also horrible people. If you celebrate somebody's murder in cold blood, you are, by definition, a horrible fucking person. And before anybody says it, yes, I've heard about this other guy, Daniel Perry, who apparently murdered somebody at what appears to be a BLM protest, which is more than likely a riot, considering we know how bad that has gotten over the years, and murdered somebody in cold blood who was there with his girlfriend, who, as far as I know, is black, and the man in question was white. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's not acceptable either. You should not be celebrating that this guy got off. Because apparently, yeah, this guy was pardoned. That's disgusting. That is utterly fucking disgusting. I don't condone that, and I think that guy should have been locked up for life too. Luigi Mangione needs to be kept away from society for the rest of his natural life. People are going to say, oh, but his back pain. I'm sorry, his back pain does not justify it. Oh, he had a psychotic break. Yeah, okay. Then you put him in a mental institution and you keep him there for the rest of his life. Because we don't know when he's going to snap again. All right? His pain in the back is not going to justify his actions. I have pain in my back too. You don't see me going around and, committing cold-blooded murder. You don't see me complaining that I literally live in subsidized housing. You don't see me complaining that I don't have a lavish mansion. People try to justify people having money as a reason to hate them. You know how you get more money in life? Go out and earn it. If you think you're not getting what you're worth, here's what you do. You work hard, you hone your skills at whatever you're good at, and you go out and you get what you think you're worth. Nobody is owed money. Nobody is owed anything in this world. Is it nice that we have some programs out there that do help those of us who are less fortunate? Sure. But we have to remember that being successful is not something that should be derided, criticized, or disincentivized. Being successful is something that should be praised because it means you went out, you got what you're worth, whether other people like that fact or not, doesn't matter. You don't try to attack people for being successful. You don't try to attack people for running a company. That's disgusting. And you're disgusting if you support it. I can't stress this enough. And I've literally been sitting here basically streaming for the last 25 minutes about this, and I still feel like I've got more that I could do. But I'm not gonna, because otherwise I'm gonna be here all night. And I've got things I'd rather do than indulge my justifiable rage at the behavior of people who are condoning the murder of an individual in cold blood, while literally trying to condemn somebody for trying to protect others on a subway car. Both deaths are tragedies. Neither death needed to happen. But unfortunately, both deaths did happen. The difference is the way people are behaving in regards to these deaths. One is condemned and the other is celebrated. Neither should be celebrated. And only one of them should be condemned because only one of them was deliberate and premeditated. If you disagree, you're entitled to disagree, but you're wrong. No ifs, ands, or buts, no debate. If you believe that Daniel Penny should be condemned for trying to protect people, but Luigi Mangione should be lionized for committing premeditated murder, you're a disgusting human being, and I hate you. And I don't hate people lightly. I can be angry with people. I can think that they're bad people. I can think that they're disgusting. But I rarely use the term hate and mean it. But when I say this, I mean it. If you condemn the death of Jordan Neely, which was unintentional and unintended, but celebrate the death of Brian Thompson, which was premeditated, you're a disgusting person, and I hate you. And I feel justified in that hate because you're the kind of person who would go out and premeditatively murder somebody. Because it's the only way you could ever celebrate that kind of behavior. That's the only way you could feel joy in that kind of behavior. That's the only way you could have a lack of empathy for anybody who engages in the kind of behavior that led to the premeditated murder of an individual who never did anybody any harm himself. One had a history of violence, one did not. You're condemning the individual who tried to protect people from the individual who had a history of violence, and you're lionizing somebody who allegedly is responsible for the death of an individual who had never so much as ever touched anybody in an aggressive way. If that's the kind of person you are the kind of person I have no sympathy for when bad things happen to you. You are the kind of person I have no empathy for when bad things happen to you. You are the kind of person who, when you say, oh, I'm so bad off, people owe me something because I had a bad life, I'm going to, in spirit, be there pointing and laughing. Because I've had a bad life too. Not as bad as some, but certainly worse than others. I generally try to be, I won't say kind because I'm not necessarily a kind person, but I try to at least be empathetic, sympathetic, try to make people feel better when bad things happen to them. But this is not one of those times. Some people might call me kind if they know me, but whether or not they're actually right, I couldn't say. Like a lot of people out there, I had a temper once upon a time. I still kind of do. But you don't see me going out and acting violently. I deal with my rage when I feel angry to the point that I feel like I'm enraged in a constructive way. I'm a writer. I want to hopefully someday have books out in stores for people to enjoy, for people to be able to escape from reality for a couple of hours. You know how I take care of my rage? How I deal with my frustration in the world? I play video games. I play games where I can take my wrath, my rage, my anger, my frustration out on characters that do not exist, and ultimately where I can enjoy myself doing something that A, will help me to express my rage in a safe, sane, and altogether private affair, rather than going out and doing something incredibly evil. As Luigi Mangione, again, allegedly, assuming it was him, although again, he appears to have admitted his guilt in his manifesto, did. One individual acted to try to help others, Daniel Penny. One individual went out to commit premeditated murder, Luigi Mangione. Penny is the one being condemned. Mangione is the one being lionized. You people make me sick. And as I said, if you're one of those people out there who says, it's okay, this man was a CEO, this man had money, therefore it doesn't matter, I'm going to dehumanize him, and how dare you not let me dehumanize him? Yeah, I fucking hate you. You're bad people, and you deserve to feel bad. You're bad people, and you deserve to have bad things happen to you. You want to call what happened to Brian Thompson karmic justice? And yes, I do know somebody who did say that. Okay. Just remember then, when anything bad happens to you and you whine, bitch, and complain about it, it's just karmic justice. It's just karmic justice. You're a bad person. You did bad things by celebrating a bad thing, and now bad things are happening to you as a result. After all, that's your logic, right? This guy ran a company that you didn't like, so it's okay for him to die because some asshole decided he was going to commit premeditated murder? Okay. Well, I have no sympathy for you. I have no empathy for you. And I will celebrate in spirit anytime something bad happens to you. Because you deserve it. Just like you claim he deserved it. You're bad people if you celebrate the death of anybody. And if you do, I fucking hate you. Goodbye. Good luck. Good riddance.